podcast that we've been doing for 9 years. It's our tagline, Next Level University, is success and personal development in your pocket from anywhere on the planet every single day, completely free. We do an episode every day. We have almost 2,400 episodes now. I'm a coach, trainer, and podcaster, and I came from a very challenging upbringing. I think we'll probably get into that a little bit. And I was able to create a life that's not only very successful, but deeply fulfilling. And it took me 30 years to kind of figure that out. But I believe in human potential so much, so much. What we are capable of is tremendous. If we believe in ourselves, believe in our value, and work really hard.
So take us through your, as I call it, the origin stories of Alan. You mentioned that you came from humbling beginnings, to use a different term. How was your childhood like, and how did it impact you?
Childhood. So I'm 37 now, and I've re-watched the movie of my life many times over from each new awareness. I do that every year, in some ways every day. But in hindsight, it was pretty tough, even though at the time I didn't really know any different. So 1988, I was born and raised in Massachusetts. And in 1991, when I was almost three, I had an older sister who was six. I had a mom who was 31. My birth father, John McCorkle, died in a car very suddenly, very tragically. And so my real last name is actually McCorkle, my birth last name. So from 1992 to the early 2000s, I had a stepfather named Steve Lazaros. And my mom and stepdad didn't really get along. That's a polite way to put it. And that was the 90s. So he worked for a company called AGFA. They did hospital computers during the dot-com bubble. And we did very well financially. So it was sort of, and the 90s were wild economic boom times. I mean, particularly in the US, but all around the world, the 90s were crazy economically. And so we had boats and ski trips. My mom drove a BMW. We literally had a yacht, like all kinds of stuff. And when he left my family when I was 14, I went from sort of boats and ski trips, very well off, quote unquote, to I get free lunch at school now because our income is so low. We don't have cable. My mom trades in her BMW for a little Honda Civic. We're not going to starve by any means, but definitely, how am I going to go to college? I look into the future, no trust fund, no generational wealth, no dad. If it's to be, it's up to me type of thing. And fortunately, my trauma response to that was to aim higher, work harder, and get smarter. And we can get into that if you'd like. But I basically bootstrapped through all of high school. There was something called No Child Left Behind back then, which was really awesome. No, equal opportunity was big. And I got scholarships and financial aid. So I got straight A's through all of high school. I got what's called the President's Award signed by George W. Bush behind me. And graduate high school in 2007. I get into WPI, which was my dream college, Worcester Polytechnic Institute. It's kind of like a mini MIT in Massachusetts, engineering college. And I get my computer engineering degree. I get my master's in business, and it's off to the races. So I did the traditional path in the US. I did the preschool, kindergarten, elementary school, middle school, high school, college, corporate, and I did very well. I did very well with that. 26, I'm at this point had the success that I thought I wanted. I had a thriving social life, high school friends, college friends, corporate friends. I brought my high school friends to college friends to corporate. Thriving social life. I made almost 200 grand a year at this point. My rent was $500. My car was $5,000 cash, 2004 Volkswagen Passat. And this is in hindsight. I learned how to need very little after my stepdad left. So now I made so much money and I didn't really need much. So I just put it all in the stock market. And I did very well. I bought tech companies, different index funds, Vanguard, that kind of thing. And so now I paid off 84 grand worth of college debt in a single year back in 2014, debt free. And then I put all my money in the stock market and I did very well. I'm 26 at the time and I get in my car accident. So the shortest version I can give is it was a head on collision with a lift kitted pickup truck, 30 miles an hour, not a fender bender. Both cars are completely totaled. Fortunately, no one was killed because if they were, it would have been my fault. I was supposed to yield. I didn't. I ended up on the wrong side of the road. Fortunately, no deaths, no permanent damage. Very fortunate. The lift kitted pickup truck went up and over my car, and I was in the 2004 Volkswagen Passat. Thank you, Volkswagen. Safest car ever. I used to call it the tank. So, but this was sort of the second chance my dad never got. So for me, even though there was no permanent damage and no deaths, this was definitely a PTSD slash post traumatic growth existential crisis for me. Because my dad died in a car at 28 when I was 2. And so this is a second chance he never got. And in hindsight, now I'm 37, this is 11 years ago. This is when I found personal development, self improvement, and personal growth. This is when I made sure my success was from the inside out instead of the outside in. And I think in high school, a lot of us fall for like caring what other people think of us more than what we think of us. And the way I describe it now is you have the social world and you have the real world. The social world is what people think of you. It's your reputation. It's your Instagram account. The social world is the wedding photos. The real world is the actual marriage. The social world is your reputation. The real world is who you are and what you are and how you feel about yourself when you're by yourself. The social world is your Instagram account. Your real world is the bank account. And now I coach 29 people, all business owners. We have a podcast now heard in 180 countries. I have a 24-person team now. So it's grown into a lot, but it all started out with this one mantra. I started Lazaros LLC 11 years ago. What you'll never learn in school, but desperately need to know. Because this was the kicker. I was a straight A student. I graduated near the top of my class. I went to one of the best colleges on earth. Why didn't I learn about habits and goal setting and mindset and self-belief and self-worth and courage and humility and vulnerability and communication and relationships? What? I am still pissed off about it. So instead of just being pissed off about it, I decided to do something about it. So now we have Next Level University, level up your health, wealth, and love, 1% improvement in your pocket every day. And that's still the same mission I'm on, which is let's talk about the stuff we should have learned in school that we never did, because if you don't know better, you can't do better.
If you were given, Alan, total control of all the schools across the world,
Nice.
what are the first three things that you would have them teach and why?
Ooh. Number one would be statistics. I'm going to do the why on each one. So number one would be statistics. And the reason why is because I've found through coaching that the majority, so rather than just being someone who talks, let me just give you some numbers. I'm an engineer. I love numbers. My magic number, 6,917 coaching sessions at this stage. Okay. I count them. I call it my magic number because it's my favorite thing in the world. So these are people all over the world, all different industries, all different backgrounds, all different countries. I got people in New Zealand, Australia, Canada, all over the world for 11 years now. So I found this pattern happening where I realized almost no one is accurate about themselves. They don't know where they fall on the bell curve. Some people are amazing and think they suck. Some people suck and think they're amazing. None of it is based in statistical reality. So I'll give you an example. I have a client who is like, I don't make enough money. And I said, well, you are a 1% global earner. And she's like, what? I was like, how much did you make last year? She said $102,000. I said, in the US, that's not a lot. But globally, that's near the top. She's like, not a chance. We looked it up, 2%. I was off by 1%. My bad. The point is, everything's relative. Statistics makes it objective. Of course, you're going to look out of shape compared to Arnold Schwarzenegger. Of course, you're going to think you're in shape when you're around a bunch of out of shape people. The point is, objective reality is important. And statistics is how I size up the world, the bell curve. Some of us are average, some of us are at the top, some of us are at the bottom, but the social world just skews it all. It basically skews it all, right? So statistics is number one. Are you regretting asking this question yet? I'm just joking.
No, I love it because that was actually a good answer because I was like, okay, I can jive with that answer. Go ahead.
Nice. Number two, philosophy. I used to think philosophy was silly because as an engineer, it seems a little bit qualitative and not quantitative. It seems a little squishy to me. Philosophy, I think, is really important. And the reason why is because philosophy is essentially your belief system. How is it that two people can have the same atrocious childhood and one person ends up changing the world and the other person ends up in and out of rehab? It's their philosophy and maybe their natural genetics and talent too, but philosophy matters a lot. Okay. Not everyone's going to be Michael Jordan, but your philosophy can determine your direction a lot in life. Like, I've been trying to figure this out my entire life, honestly. And I think I've got it somewhat figured out because I grew up with some people that had huge potential, tons of potential. I mean, they were better than me at stuff for sure. Not everything, but I wondered why someone could have such a hard upbringing and so much adversity and lose a parent and, you know, way more adversities I can't talk about publicly, and why they would end up so amazing. And then why someone could have everything handed to them. I mean, I'm thinking of someone right now. I mean, she just had the dream from the get. And honestly, she's lazy. She doesn't have grit. She didn't turn adversity into her advantage. She doesn't have that same level of tenacity that someone who had to climb does. And this, it turns out, is a thing. So if you have high self-efficacy in psychology, they teach this self-efficacy. And that's my third answer, by the way, which is psychology. So it would be statistics, philosophy, and psychology. So in psychology, they call it self-efficacy. In layman's terms, it's self-belief. How is it that two siblings that can go through the same atrocious childhood, one of them ends up, like I said, changing the world, and the other one ends up crawling into a bottle, metaphorically and literally? What I've figured out is self-efficacy is your certainty in your own ability to create a bigger, better, brighter future and create outcomes in advance. So how certain are you can turn your life around internally? And this is subconscious and unconscious, not conscious. So the subconscious and unconscious is 200,000 times more powerful than the conscious mind. So I didn't know I had a lot of self-efficacy. It's only in hindsight, looking back, when people would ask, like, how did you always aim higher, work harder, and get smarter through all that adversity? That was my trauma response. My trauma response was, I feel worthless and hopeless. I don't like that. So I'm going to go into the future and create a vision of what could be. But it turns out people who don't believe in themselves don't do that. They don't do what I call visioneering. Visioneering is everything's created twice, once in your mind and then once in reality. Like, someone had to envision the iPhone before it was created, right? Obviously there was an iPod and phones and stuff. They didn't conjugate it out of thin air, but you get what I'm saying. So that's what I would say is statistics is number one, philosophy is number two, and psychology is number three. And basically what that means is statistics will teach you about the world, psychology will teach you about yourself, and philosophy will be your emotional and mental guidance system to make effective decisions over time.
If someone were to pick one of those three, let's say philosophy, since you mentioned that one,
Mm-hmm.
some people express it in different ways. And some people may try to say, well, I'm trying to do better. I'm trying to be better, to your point. What's your belief? What's your self-belief? But things keep not going my way,
Mm-hmm.
and they continue to find obstacles. How can maybe we assist them to understand that, to your point, you can continue to do forward, but you have to have that unwavering self-belief to get you through and maybe over those obstacles?
Yeah. I would bring the concept of duality to their awareness. And duality is holding two seemingly opposing ideas in your consciousness simultaneously. And I'll give you an example. So, an example would be, I know that I know that I know that I know that I can be a successful podcaster. And I know I'm not good enough to be yet. You see, you can't just hold one. You can't just say, I'm a podcaster and I'm a successful podcaster. That's overly affirmy horseshit. But what you can do is know that you are capable of it in the future and you're not good enough yet. I always say, why would someone work on something they don't accept isn't good? So you have to know you can be good and you have to simultaneously know you suck. And so it's very hard for people to hold that duality. There's a book called The Self-Made Billionaire Effect, and they studied all the self-made billionaires. And one of the common factors they found, regardless of whether or not you want to be a billionaire, I could care less about that. My point is what they found in the mindset is that they hold duality well. And duality is work smart and hard, not smart or hard. That is dumb. You don't work smart until after you beat your head against the wall. Come on, nobody innovates at the beginning. It's and. I would always bet on someone who works hard over someone who works smart, always. But you can't beat the person who does both every day. And that duality is not normal. Like a lot of people don't hold, like I am lazy as hell and the hardest working person ever. You, how are both true? It depends who you're comparing to. I am lazy compared to what I could do and should do. I am very hardworking, it turns out, compared to other people. That's actually been really hard for me to see. Make me very sad.
I'm glad you mentioned duality because I was going through a rough patch in my 20s. And it came to the point similar to you that once I was going through that trauma, I just asked myself, Train, what do you want to do? And what type of future do you want for yourself? And now let me tell you, once I had that conversation with myself, I created a life in my mind, and then all I had to do was create it in reality. I
Mm-hmm.
went to people that had parts of it. I was like, okay, you have a successful relationship. How did you do this?
Nice.
You were successful in your job. How did you do that? You had better friends and you stopped people pleasing. How did you do that? Right? So once I got that information, it was like, okay, I used to watch a show called Voltron of Power Rangers, how they always used to come together and form this big megazord. So I was like, let me be that.
Nice.
And once I was able to do that, it was like I went from not seeing clearly to seeing fully clearly. And I was then one thing that I did realize, and this kind of hurt my heart at the time, but now I kind of laugh about it, is I began to look at the people around me that were part of this old identity. And I was like, you won't be able to make this journey with me. You
Mm-hmm.
won't be able to make this journey with me. I could learn a lot from. I began to see parts of what I wanted to be a part of my new life and parts that I didn't want to be a part of my new life.
Nice.
When it comes to the social circle, because you mentioned the social aspect, you mentioned the social and the reality. When we're making these changes, how difficult is it for people to let go of that old identity, that old social circle, and continue to become the person that they're designing their life to be?
Yeah, so that was the hardest part for me too. Uh, Pre-car accident, there's really no one still consistently in my life other than my mother. And that's by design. And that's not to say that there aren't good people prior, but I did learn at some point that not everyone wants to climb Mount Everest. And I felt like I was trying to drag people up a mountain they don't want to climb, and that is a terrible idea. That's a good way to just not only destroy your self-worth but also your relationships. And so one of the things that I think is really depressing for me is if you don't have huge goals, you don't really have to do much. And if you don't have to do much, you don't have to become much, then you don't really get along with people who have to. There's a concept called necessity. So this is my formula, and everything's an equation for me. So bear with me. And there's a bunch of books on this: The Art of Impossible, Peak Performance by Brad Stulberg. There's a bunch. It's not just my opinion. This is very well documented. So if you have high levels, I guess this would be my formula from all those books, but ultimately, if you have high levels of self-efficacy, which is your belief in your ability to create an outcome, you mentioned you did it in your mind first. So terrain, not everyone does that. So some people really do stumble upon things. I coached someone in the NFL once, and this was a massive wake up call for me. And we were coaching, and he played with Eli Manning at one point, and I was curious. I was like, what was that like, right? And this is, probably 7 years ago or something like that. And I found out that he didn't even really like football. And he's like, Alan, I didn't even want, because I was trying to peak performance tracking, habits, metric, like let's reverse engineer the finish line. What's your goals? How we do it? I definitely scared him away, by the way. But the point is, I think I thought he was a lot more hardcore than he really was because I assumed you have to be hardcore to be in the NFL. Now you do in some ways, but let me share this. He said, Alan, I like basketball. Like I never even really liked football. I was just really good at it. And I was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let me just run the numbers on this. You're telling me you were one of the best football players on earth to the point where you were a starter in the NFL on accident? Like stumbling upon it? He's like, yeah, I was the best in the Northeast. Like, I didn't even like football. I love basketball. Can you imagine what you could have done if you actually fucking dial it in? That was like that day changed my life. Because for me, I never really stumbled upon things. I always had to like decide in advance and then reverse engineer it. Some people are really that good where they just like stumble upon being really good at stuff and then they get socially rewarded for it. So they stick with it and then coaches guide them. And like, so there's this website way back in the day called Stumble Upon. I was 2008, my dorm room in college. I graduated high school in 2007 and there was this website called Stumble Upon. It's like webcam roulette. It was dumb as hell. It's the dumbest thing ever. But everyone in my dorm room was doing it. Dormitory, not dorm room. And I remember thinking, what a giant waste of time, right? But basically, what happens is you just do dumb things, silly things, gross things, whatever, and you just webcam to webcam all across the internet. Really giant waste of time. Kind of funny, but dumb. I think that's a good metaphor for how a lot of people live their life. They just stumble upon a sport or stumble upon a career or stumble upon a job or stumble upon a neighbor. Like growing up, was I best friends with that person because we were destined to be best friends or because we both loved Star Wars and they moved in next door? Right. And we loved lightsaber battles. Like the truth is, most things aren't by design unless you decide to design them. And no one decides to design them unless you have self belief. But here's the kicker last piece. What has been very unfortunate in my research of coaching so many people is if you don't have self belief, you won't set a goal for the future. And if you don't set a goal for the future, you'll never really build self belief because it's state proof self assigned is the formula for self efficacy. It's I'm going to state that I'm going to do X. So for me, I decided to get straight A's in high school and get the President's Award. I proved to myself that I could do it, which was brutal at times. And then I self assigned it once I did it. But I didn't know, like, I didn't know that back then. I just did this automatically without knowing it. Some people are state proof self assigned. You are, obviously. And you did that. Like, I'm going to decide to change my life. And then you go do it. Some people really are very experience driven and they just kind of drift with the tide and end up where they end up. And then they don't feel in control of their own destiny because of it. And then they actually usually shit on people like me and you.
Yeah, they do actually. I think about it, the more success I found, the more the more broken friendships.
Yeah, same.
And this isn't, to your point, right? Like you mentioned, this isn't because they're bad people. It's just we're not aligned anymore. And I think one of the most difficult things I had to realize was once it started to impact my romantic relationships, where I was thinking, this is where I want to go. Are you able to work with me on this journey?
Yeah.
And I think maybe from a man's perspective, but I'm pretty sure women go through this as well. Men don't really talk about their feelings in that way in general. It's just okay, we're boys, we're bros, we're along for the ride until they're not along for the ride anymore. But when you're in a romantic relationship, you may say, okay, this is what I want, this is the future. Are you okay? And they may say yay, they may say nay, but loneliness I found was something that I had to deal with. And sometimes I look back and I'm fortunate that I was younger in my age because some of the women who I coach that I work with, they're discovering it in their 50s and their
I
60s,
know. Yeah.
right? And yeah, and they're saying, Train, I'm too old to do this. I'm too old to find love. I'm too old to restart. And I try to let them know, no, you're not too old. Yes, it's later on in life, But today is the day because it's better today than never. When someone comes to you, or in your experience, Alan, and they've reached a certain age and the change is right in front of them, how much of an impact does the age have in maybe them thinking that they can make the journey to be successful?
Great podcast, man. I appreciate it. So age, I tell my team, you'll never hear someone talk about age more than me. And the reason why is the compound effect. So if you, I'll give this first and then I'll answer your question. For those of you who don't like math, I want you to temper your dislike for me for a second and just trust the principle. Okay. If I put $1 in a financial calculator and I grow it by 0.1% for 50 years, the reason I do this is I'm a business coach, and you can start a business in your 20s and do it for 50 years. Business is like golf. You can play this shit forever. Okay. So 50 years. All right. $1, 0.1%, 1/10 of 1% per day. That is a doable thing. It's not easy, but it's doable. If you do that every day for 50 years, do you know how much money you'd end up with? $1
What?
becomes, do you want to guess?
I'll have to get my calculator out, scramble it. What's the answer?
84 million. It's 83.5 million. I rounded up to 84. Okay. Anyone can do this, by the way. Don't do it in AI, though, because for some reason, ChatGPT gets math wrong all the time. Do a financial calculator. Just Google financial calculator. Put this in. Dollar in a financial calculator, 0.1%. Do 365 times 50 years. That's the amount of days. Okay. Now, guess what it is if you take weekends off?
Quarter of that?
439,000. One
Even less.
191th of that. So if you and I both start a company and I improve that company by 0.1% per day, I grow the company by 0.1% per day for 50 years, and you do the same thing, but you take weekends off, I will have 191 times the outcome. All right. The reason why I think people like your client says it's too late for me is because some things it is too late. Investors know this. If you start at 10, like you're exponentially better off than if you start at 50. But it's better than not starting, to your point. So I coach someone in her 60s. She says, Alan, I've got at least 12 years left in my career. I said, good. We can do a lot with 12 years. Her husband's older than her. She's very afraid he's going to pass away soon. I said, I know you want to spend more time with him. I get it, but we have a career here. So we need to do both. Either way, no matter what, this is what I try to do with myself. There's something called nihilism, which is like a fancy word for hopeless. The future is worse than the past. There's a lot of people right now that are allowing themselves to believe that the future is worse than the past. And basically what happens is you go into what I call the doom loop. It's like, well, I don't believe in the future, so I don't invest in the future. And since I don't invest in the future, it gets worse, which then confirms that it's worse. So it's this doom loop. My job in coaching is to keep everyone in the success loop. Here's the success loop for everybody out there. Believe more, invest more, get more results, which then makes you what? Believe more. It's a cycle. Now, here's the problem. I believe I'm going to get it in shape this year. You invest in it, you go to the gym. What happens when you don't get the results? Do you still believe? Failure, failure, failure. Failure is success is going from failure to failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. 2,400 episodes almost. I'm telling you, so many of those were just brutal. They weren't good. They were terrible. Now, do I think they were not worth listening to or not worth doing? No. But if you think I'm even reasonable at podcasting, it's just because I've done this thousands of times. I didn't come out of the womb good at podcasting. I just don't think that people are seeing the compound effect of small improvements incremental over time. I'm playing the 0.1% improvement in my pocket every single day from anywhere on the planet, completely free game when no one's watching. Before I had a podcast, I was doing freaking speeches in my driveway alone, right? Just into my iPhone, recording it to review it to see if I was any good. And I was terrible. And at the end of the day, terrible compared to what? Terrible compared to people who have been doing it for decades. So long obedience in the same direction. The problem with people who have a bad mindset that are older They feel like the best is behind them, and that's going to prove to be true if they don't start investing in that future. I believe the future matters more than the present. And I'm telling you, the peak performance, psychology, philosophy, all of what I've studied has proven that if the best is in the past, you will slowly fall into the doom loop. Your brain and your body can adapt, but it only adapts through necessity, and necessity only comes from goals, and goals only comes from belief. And so I don't want the best to be in my past. I was a fitness model in my 20s. I'm telling you, it's very hard for me to face the fact that my best might be in my past, but I will not accept that. I'm going to keep climbing. And fitness is way harder naturally at 37 than it was at 27, to an alarming extent, by the way.
I've seen some people struggle with that because they just don't have the patience for the success. So, for example, we talked about their peaks in their 20s. For many of us, things came fast, it came hard, right? If I wanted attention from the opposite sex, I got it. If I wanted success, I was probably working at McDonald's, and when I got that dollar raise, I thought I was the greatest thing in the world because maybe I didn't have any bills. Maybe I was paying my mom and dad $100 a month, whatever the case is. I didn't have a, I was taking the bus, I bought a used car because my expectations weren't as high. As I got older, and to your point, Alan, I'm looking around, I'm seeing everyone my age. They're married, they have kids, they drive a Ferrari, they have a big house. If I'm the type of person that I'm living at in my mom's basement, and I'm like, oh my God, I was the happy couple in high school. I threw 4 touchdowns in one football game. I was Al Bundy, right? Now I'm stuck with Peggy Bundy with these 2 kids, and it's like everyone around me is better. But to your point and to our point, you could believe that, and everything that you do, and in a large case, everything you don't do is all going to be a self fulfilling prophecy. You
Yep.
think you're nothing, you're going to continue to be nothing as you do nothing. But if you truly wanted something for yourself, I would ask the question of that person, what do you think is preventing you from finding the type of life or success that you want defined by your terms?
Mm-hmm.
And some people get scared of that question because what I find is that, oh, are you saying it's me? It's not everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the world out there. When someone comes face to face with that choice to let's work together, let's do something, or you can continue to be complacent. What do you think are maybe some of the impact, some of the obstacles, sorry, that's preventing them from making that step forward and say, yes, I'm 100% committed into this?
Uh, so the responsibility piece, uh, and the courage that it takes to say I'm going to do something in advance, and even more courage to say it socially, because it really you protect yourself by not setting a goal. You protect yourself from failure. So we have a 10-pound in 10-week challenge. It's called the Next Level Fitness Accountability Group, and we have 28 people. I have all the start weights and end weights. February 1st is the start date. April 11th, I want to say, is the end date. I think April 13th, something like that. I have to look at it. It's in my spreadsheets. And we have 28 people signed up. And I told them 3 weeks in, it's like I gained weight. And I said, full vulnerability here. I don't understand why I gained weight. I've definitely been putting more salt on my rice because it tastes terrible. And I've changed my diet a bunch. So maybe my body's adjusting, or maybe I'm just not burning enough calories because I sit all goddamn day as a podcaster, right? But the truth of the matter is, I have to own the failure when I actually set a goal publicly. And this responsibility piece, it's this weird duality where if you don't set a goal, you don't have to take responsibility in advance for what it takes to achieve the goal. And if you don't have to take responsibility, then that means it could be someone else's fault. And then you have something or someone to blame. So you blame the government or you blame whatever. When in reality, most of the time, sometimes it is the government. I understand that, right? I've coached people in countries where it is actually the government. But at the end of the day, like, control the controllables. And what you have control over is what you say, think, do, feel, and believe. And I think it takes tremendous courage to set a goal because you could fail. I don't want to lose 10 pounds in 10 weeks. I'm 210. I'm strong. I feel great. And yeah, I'm getting a little fat. At the end of the day, I need to recomp and I need to lead by example and I need to make sure I hit the goal. But it takes a lot of courage because you basically risk looking like a failure. Whereas when you don't have a goal and you don't put yourself out there and you don't put skin in the game and you don't invest in that course or invest in that business or start that thing or quit your job or whatever it is, you don't have to fail. But you end up failing by default because you didn't try and you didn't put it all on the court. So I had to redefine the game for myself. So I studied game theory, infinite games, finite games. Look up game theory if you're curious. Somewhere along the lines after my car accident, I said, I have to redefine this game. Like I have been playing by someone else's rules for sure, unconsciously. Like, how do I get approval? High school friends, college friends, corporate friends, success, 180 grand a year, corporate boss, boss's boss. It's like, I got to get the fuck out of all this shit. Like, let me redefine what success means to me. So, this is what I've got it boiled down to. I want you to do it for you. I'll just give you mine. After my car accident, when I said that could have been it, my dad died at 28. I was 26, and I was looking at my life going, that could have been it. Would I have been proud of myself? Now, I wasn't a bad person. I did really well in school. I tried hard. I tried harder than the average bear. I get it. But here's my truth. You want to hear it? Here it is. I rested on talent. Getting straight A's was harder than most people, but it was kind of easy for me. And I know that sounds pretentious, but hear me out. I didn't put it all on the court. I didn't put it all on the court. I spread myself too thin. I hung out with too many people I shouldn't have. Holy hell. I had low self worth. I wasted so much time and effort on alcohol and dumb shit. And I wasn't reaching my full potential. And that was what I regretted after the car accident. It was like, that was the pain, is if that was it, I didn't even scratch the surface of my true potential. So I decided to redefine the game. Instead of what people think of me, external results, paycheck, blah, 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 I'm going to redefine the game with this. No one will outfail me. No one will ever put in more intention and effort than me, ever. And I will reach my full potential or die trying. Now, that was 11 years ago, and it's been pretty hard socially because I'm not exactly fun at a barbecue, okay? But I can look myself in the mirror and say, I did all I could with all I had for the last 11 years. And every single day, that's another choice that you have to re up. I go to bed thinking about my full potential. I wake up thinking about it. I told book club today, I was in there earlier. We're reading a book called Peak Performance by Brad Stulberg. I do it every Saturday. I've been doing it for 6 years now. And I said, I'm here to reach my own unique potential and help others do the same. If you don't want to reach your full potential, please leave. I never used to do that. I used to try to convince people to come and reach their potential. Nobody cares, Alan. Like some people do, but the majority of people don't. I do. So if you care about reaching your full potential, I am for you. If you don't, I'm going to be nothing but a pain in the ass because I will turn every conversation into something that helps you grow. And I just realized that my friends don't care. They don't want to. They're exhausted. They're not interested. They don't have goals. They don't believe in themselves as much. And I see potential in them so much, but maybe they don't. Maybe they don't care. Maybe they don't value what I value. So instead of trying to help a bunch of people climb a mountain they don't want to climb, I decided to say, okay, I'm going to define the game for me. And then I'm going to create my sort of 300 Spartans. And I'm going to climb this meaningful mountain and then make more mountain when we get there. And I'm going to keep going. And I think that all of us are unique. And I think that this is what's unique about me. And some people hate me and some people like me and some people love me. And that's okay. But I know what I'm here to do. And I know what my mission is. And I know what my purpose is. And I know what I'm passionate about. And I'm here to do that. And everything else is secondary.
Alan, let me ask you one final question before I let you go today. I want to do it in this form. I want to give you three wishes. And these are three things that you can wish about this question. What are three things you wish people knew about the value of self-worth and why?
Okay, the first one's going to be hard to hear, probably. The first thing I wish people knew about self worth is that a lot of people, it's inflated. If you have a birthday week or a birthday month, Yeah, I'll share this. There's two types of people I never work with, and I used to all the time, which is why my life wasn't working. Number one is bullies. If you put others down to feel bigger and better about yourself, you're a bully, and I'm not interested. And the other one is spoiled brats, people who want huge rewards for minimal effort. Also not interested. So the first one about self belief, three wishes. The wish I wish the world understood how to recognize the difference between real grounded confidence and inflated self worth. I couldn't tell the difference in the past, right? That high school kid who can dunk a basketball grew into a man when none of us else hit puberty, who was just amazing by default. That's not real grounded confidence. That's just inflated self worth based on natural talent. And the not give an F attitude, who cares about school, too cool for school. Good luck with that long term strategy. Where's that dude now in your 30s, right? At the end of the day, that's number one. I wish people understood and could recognize inflated self worth, because those are the abusers typically. Those are the disrespectful people. Those are the people that think they're better than other people. Okay. Internally, they pretend they don't, but internally they do. All right. Number two, if you have low self worth, it is destroying your ability to move forward. Because when you do gain self worth, and I'm speaking from experience, you basically start actually setting boundaries and saying no to bullies and spoiled brats. I used to like, someone would mistreat me, and then I'd like try to go out of my way to coach them. Now I say take a hike, and it's the best. They want you more. It's weird. It's fascinating. The third thing about self worth, you can build it. You can build it, baby, from the inside out. Not fake, not inflated, real. The number one thing I do with my clients that have high humility, high work ethic, and a high improvement orientation, who aren't spoiled brats and aren't bullies, that have low self worth, I help them. I say, what is the number one thing that you tie to your self esteem? For women, it tends to be something body related, fitness, typically, looks. And again, that's conditioning for sure. For men, it tends to be success and finance. But again, it varies. I say, what if we just decided to redefine that game and actually win it inside? So one of my clients, she said to me, I'm overweight. I know it. I hate it. I said, here's the deal. Let's just start small and build. She's done 20 minutes of exercise every day for 58 days straight. You can see the self-esteem building in her. And she's losing some of her shitty friends, like, because she's actually feeling good about herself, and people don't like it because they're used to her not feeling good about herself. So some people are arrogant and have inflated self-worth. Some people, it's way too low and you let people stomp on you. And the idea, I think, is to build it authentically and try to